Welcome back to Talking Sports with Brandon. This is the Dallas Cowboys Week 13 episode, and it's going to be a good episode. I mean, obviously, if you watch the game on Sunday Night Football against the Colts, you know what the final score is, but I'll say it obviously just in case you didn't see it or just didn't know what the score was, but it was 54-19 Cowboys over the Colts. Now, it's like I said, it's gonna be a great episode. Obviously, you see the final score. It's a reason why it's gonna be a good episode. But this this score really isn't indicative of what the game played out to be. We scored 33 points in the fourth quarter, 33-0 actually, to make it 54-19. So obviously, take 33 away from 54, it's 21-19 going to the fourth quarter. And that's what this game was. It was a close game when it really shouldn't have been because obviously the Cowboys are a way better team than the Colts. And it was just a really close game. It was, I can't even really say like back and forth because we were down at a couple points early, but we always seemed to have control despite it being a 2 point game, a one possession game. It always felt like we had control. You were kind of just waiting for us to really put the throttle down and really take off. And it obviously happened in the fourth quarter. And the reasons that it did happen was because of what we thought going into this game, which was the Colts don't have much of an offense. You wait for the turnovers. Obviously, our defense is really good, can force turnovers and push you back into certain downs and certain spots that you don't want to be in. And that's what happened in the fourth quarter. But for the first three, the Colts played, I mean, they had a really solid game plan with what they wanted to do, and obviously what they want to do is run the ball. They weren't amazing running the ball. It was only 3.5 yards per carry. It was only 106 yards. Jonathan Taylor, obviously the rushing leader from last year, who's been injured this year, but when he's healthy, he's had some pretty good games. And obviously, we struggle with that run. We've been better the last couple of weeks, but still, that's an area of focus. He only had 82 yards on 21 carries. So he didn't really do much. His longest run was 19. But that was even still, other than that, I think they were all basically like less than 10 yards. Like it wasn't like he was bursting out, breaking away, and getting big chunks of yards every single carry. It was very minimal yardage that he was getting. And obviously through the air, you want them to throw the ball because they have the best receivers, and obviously their quarterback can't move in the pocket. And we only had 3 sacks in this game, so not a lot, especially by our standards and the standards that the Colts set for themselves, basically, as a pretty beat up offensive line. They were missing their tackle, and also just having a guy in Matt Ryan back there who can't move once pressure hits the pocket. So not the best day in that sense, but at the same time, we forced him to throw 3 interceptions and fumble the ball. Again, 2 of the 3 picks came in the fourth quarter, and then the fumble came in the fourth quarter. So it all happened late in the game. Again, win to win. Obviously, it technically is a blowout win, and it was. But if you just saw the box score, you didn't watch the game, you just see the score at the end of the night, you see 54-19, you probably just thought we were up 25 points basically the entire game, and it ended up being a 54-19 win. But in reality, it was a 2 point game in the fourth quarter. So we're gonna dive into it. We're gonna talk about it, and like we always do, we're gonna go possession by possession. Just talk about what worked, what didn't work, what we saw from certain people, and we'll go from there. So first possession, we get the ball first. They deferred the Colts, and did punt, just 3-and-out punt, nothing crazy. It's never a good start when we go 3-and-out in the first drive, no matter who the opponent is. I just feel like whenever we do start out going 3-and-out, that first half's always tricky. It just always is. Whether it's an interception here and a fumble, just bad offensive possessions, just whatever it is. It always feels like that first half, whenever we start with the ball, we go 3-and-out. It's just never a great offensive half, and that's kind of what happened here. So we go 3-and-out. Colts obviously get the ball. They go down and get a field goal. And we gave them a pretty short field. They got the ball because of a 15-yard penalty on the punt. So they would have had the ball at their 32. Instead, they have it at the 47. So they don't have to go far. But even in that, despite, we basically gifted them those 3 points because they only went 20 yards in 6 plays. So if they are at their 32-yard line, they get 20 yards. They're at our 48-yard line. They're punting. So again, that 15-yard penalty, and penalties wasn't big in this one. It started off with the penalty, which 3-and-out penalty on a punt, which if you saw the penalty, it was, he calls fair catch and Kelvin Joseph runs into him. He didn't get pushed, nothing, just ran right into him. So just handed them 3 points right then and there. So not a great start, but even still holding to a field goal. Again, without that penalty, they're punting back to us, but nevertheless, they do get the field goal, but we answer right back. And that's again, that's been kind of the motto, the theme for this team, I would say, so far this season, is answering right back with touchdowns. Not just field goals, but touchdowns. And on this drive, we actually went for it on 4th down when we were in field goal range, and that led to the touchdown. So Pollard for 3 yards, Pollard for 10, Schultz for 11. Which was, I think, just like playing off the run, which the run game was very big in this one. We ran for 220 on the ground, which is what pretty much is a custom and kind of what is expected from this team, to run for over 200 yards a game. There really shouldn't be a game where we don't run for over 200 yards, or at least close to it, whether it's 170 plus. It really shouldn't ever be not expected from this team. So Schultz for 11, like I said. We're at midfield already. 3 yards, 10 yards for Zeke. Zeke, he didn't start this game. People were making a big deal about it. It doesn't matter. I think apparently there was something with he showed up late to a meeting, or there was some behind-the-scenes thing, so they just had Pollard start. It doesn't matter. It didn't. They played basically the same amount of snaps anyways. But this was Zeke's, I guess, first carry. He went for 10, went for 5, went for 3. 3rd and 2, he only gets 1 yard. Go for it on the 4th and 1, like I was talking about. This is when we're at their 27-yard line. So easily could have just kicked the field goal here. Made it 3-3, tie game, whatever. Still middle of the first quarter, but we're clearly the better team, the more dominant team, so why not go for it? Our defense is good enough anyways to force a punt if we were not to get that first down. They're still in their territory, pretty backed up, to be honest, so it's worth a shot. 1 yard, I think that we're pretty capable of getting 1 yard, and Zeke goes for 6. So 1st and 10 at their 21-yard line. Turns into 2nd and 10 off an incompletion. Only 1 yard of Pollard. And then 3rd and 9, we get a pretty lucky touchdown, in my opinion. So it's a crosser over the middle of the Lamb. And Stephon Gilmore tackles him, but Lamb rolls on top of him and doesn't hit the ground, runs in for the touchdown. Everyone kind of stopped playing, just assuming that, he did hit the ground, because, you get tackled like that. You just assume that he did. Lamb, realizing that he didn't, whether he knew it or not, it seemed like he did know, because they kind of released those kind of sounds from the sidelines thing. If you're a Cowboys fan, you know what I'm talking about. And he said right away that he wasn't down, because McCarthy even asked him, he's like, "You sure you weren't down?" He said, "I definitely wasn't." And he was like the only one who knew to keep playing. So get a touchdown there. They reviewed it. If he did touch the ground, you just couldn't, even if you maybe could see it in replay, which you really couldn't, but maybe if there was a partial piece of his body that hit the ground, it was just not enough to overturn it. They called a touchdown on the field. So in order to overturn that, it has to be very conclusive evidence. And even if there was minimal, it was never conclusive enough. So pretty lucky of a touchdown, because if he is down right there, it was short of the sticks by a couple yards. You weren't going to go for it at that point. You're kicking a field goal. So, definitely lucky that we got that. So it's 7-3. So now I'm feeling better. It's like, okay, the first possession wasn't great. We kind of gift them 3 points, but then we come right back with a touchdown. But the Colts, they come right back out. Again, another penalty on the kick return. So they would have been... It actually was offsetting. It really shouldn't. It was a holding on them, which would have backed them up more. But then, kind of the penalty that hurt was that they would have been inside their at least 12-yard line, I want to say. But instead, we get a taunting penalty, so then they go back out to basically the 20-25-yard line. So basically a normal just touchback. So that hurt, because they could have been really backed up. They go for 5 yards, then 14 yards for Jonathan Taylor. Again, that was his second biggest run. Other than that, it was less than 10. Then they go 45 yards over the top. And this is that one play that you knew that at some point they were going to throw a deep pass, because you're just not expecting them to throw deep. They don't have great wide receivers. Matt Ryan back there. They want to run the ball, do everything like that. But they do go over the top. Anthony Brown, who eventually did get injured in this game, and a little bit later in the game, he's actually out for the season. So I don't like Anthony Brown that much as a corner. I think he's solid. He's an okay second corner, and he's been better this year than he has last year, definitely. But even still, there's times where he's not great. But would I rather have him starting or Kelvin Joseph starting on the outside? It's not a question. I'd rather have Anthony Brown. So the fact that he actually tore his Achilles, the fact that he's now out for the season, that's concerning. That's going to be concerning. Maybe not for this next game or the game after that. Maybe not even for the regular season, but for the playoffs, that's an area of concern. So we really only have Diggs on the outside in terms of outside corners, not slot corners. And if they're going to attack, they don't really attack Diggs that much. Now, I will say on later in this drive that I'm talking about, they did go after Diggs, but for basically the entire season, no one's really tried him. And when they have, remember the Washington game, he was great. He's made a couple picks so far this season. They're not really throwing at him so far. But if we have an area of concern and a weakness on the other side of the field at corner, they're going to be attacking, and especially Kelvin Joseph, he was the one who got the first penalty on that punt to start the game. He just has no awareness, and for being a second round pick last year, who really hasn't even played corner that much, maybe in a blowout game or maybe just minimal with small injuries to Brown throughout the last 2 seasons, he has not played that much, and I just don't think he's that good. Now, they like him for his length and the ability that he does have. I mean, he went to LSU, had to transfer to Kentucky for character reasons, which you can clearly see because he just has no awareness. But he's got to have talent. I mean, he must, obviously, but he really needs to step up because he's going to be the outside corner now. You're not signing anyone, and if you are, it's not going to be someone better. It's going to maybe be a backup who, if Joseph really struggles, you put him in, but Joseph's going to be the guy on the outside. So we'll see how it looks. Again, you play the Texans this week, and then you play the Jags the week after that. But then you play the Eagles. That Eagles game is going to be the real test. At least you have these 2 weeks to kind of ramp up and get more playing time and just get used to everything and maybe possibly look better. But that Eagles game, he's going to have to be covering one of those guys at some point, and they're going to attack him. So we'll see. I think that is a small injury, but I think it has big ramifications for what this team could look like in the playoffs and how offenses do attack this defense. But yes, the 45-yard pass over Brown happened, and then one play later, they go 14 yards on a double move off Diggs. Again, he was reading slant. It was very obvious if you look at the replay again. He's playing for the slant, and I don't know if they made a check of the line. I couldn't see or remember, but a quarterback like Matt Ryan, who's seen every kind of defense and can just know when guys are keying in on certain situations. If he did make a check, it was, there's no doubt that he, obviously saw what Diggs was doing. And they went double move. It wasn't even that good of a slant, of a fake move to the inside. Diggs was he was playing slant no matter what was happening. So wide open touchdown in the back of the end zone, and it's 10-7 Colts. Again, just, kind of weird that we're down 10-7 to the Colts getting to the end of the first quarter. We do, on the next drive, we do get some yards, but it's a 3rd and 15, and we only get to 4th and 4. We had to punt, and they get a touchback. So, again, 10-7. We do force. We get our first sack, so it's 3rd and 5 for them. And really, the first 2 sacks of the game, the 2 out of 3 sacks, and it was the first 2, were on blitzes. And look, Matt Ryan can't move anyways, but especially when you blitz, there's no time for him to move. I mean, Wilson, they didn't even block him, which helped that he didn't get touched on the blitz. But even if he did get touched and got moved a little bit, Matt Ryan cannot move in the pocket left, right, backwards, forward. So it was an easy sack. There was no doubt. I thought we maybe could have blitzed more in passing situations because they had no time to throw the ball at that point. But this was the first time we really unleashed that blitz. Gets us the sack, forces a punt. And off that punt, we go down and get a touchdown. So Pollard runs for 17 yards. That was on the right side. Pollard for 4, Lamb for 22, Gallup for 7, and then Tony finishes it with a 2-yard touchdown up the middle. So that's a really good drive. That's the drive I expect. 3 straight running plays for all positive yards. Anything over 4 yards, I think, is a positive running play in my opinion. Lamb for 22. He had another good game in this one. He obviously got the touchdown early, but despite not getting any other touchdowns in this game, he was 5 for 71. He just played a really solid game. He just made a lot of big plays that when he needed to, and has just been really good over the last month. I was critical of him to start the season, and I think rightfully so. He had a couple drops. It wasn't really playing that well. Obviously, when Cooper Rush was in, it's tougher because you're a running offense more than a passing offense, and you don't have that quarterback who can get you the ball in certain spots. But ever since the Green Bay game when he had 150 and 2 touchdowns, he hasn't eclipsed that mark of stats-wise, but if you watch the game, he's making plays left and right. The Vikings game, where we really didn't need him, he made the play down the sideline to get us that field goal. The Giants game, he obviously was making the one-handed catches, making big plays. This game, he's making big plays. So he's just been really good lately. That's good to see, because if he's really going to be trending towards that wide receiver one territory, which he is, but if he can establish himself in that mode, then that really plays big dividends. His Gallup's coming back. He looks a lot better since, I would say, the last couple weeks. I think the Minnesota game is when you really started seeing it. The Giants game, you definitely saw with some big catches that he was making. So he's looking a lot better, and that it just bodes well for the entire team. Now with James Washington coming back, he should be back. I don't know if it's for this game, but definitely in the next couple weeks, like, he'll be back playing. That's a big addition as well, because with him and Noah Brown, you can, James Washington is that guy to go down the field, and that's something we haven't really done. We maybe have thrown a couple of deep balls, but we're not really going down the field on anyone. And I think getting another guy like that, or just getting someone who could do that, it opens the offense even more. So excited for when he comes back. We'll talk about the Odell thing at the end of this episode, but yes, Lamb has just looked really good these last couple of weeks. And, like I said, to cap off that drive, Pollard gets in for the 2-yard touchdown. It makes it 14-10. Next drive, we force the Colts to punt. They move the ball a little bit to get it to midfield, actually across midfield, but the second sack of the game came on another blitz. Anthony Barr, again, just bring a blitz. One guy's going to get free. It was Barr on a 3rd and 5 again, so definitely possible conversion there on 3rd down. Just gets the sack, another 9-yard sack actually, and forces a punt. So really good job right there. But it's the next possession for us. So 4.5 minutes left in the second quarter. Looking to put a drive together, 4-minute offense. To get a touchdown with no time on the clock, or just a less than a minute, and try and have the Colts go down the field on you, which wouldn't very be likely. So it's Gallup for an incompletion, but then it's Lamb for 9 yards. Actually, it was 2 straight runs from Lamb, so it was 2nd and 10. They go end around, he gets 9 yards. They do the exact same play, he gets 14 yards. So not only catching the ball and making plays through the passing game, but also the running game, which, again, at Oklahoma, that's what he was. It was give him the ball, and he's going to make a play. And I think we're finally starting to utilize him in that way, where just have him get the ball, and he's going to do something with it. That's what he was out of college. And we're finally starting to see the dividends of that pay off. So we're all the way, went from our 12-yard line to our 35-yard line. Zeke for no gain, incompletion. So 3rd and 10, now under 3 minutes left in the quarter. Obviously you can still convert a 3rd and 10, but you don't want to do anything too risky, especially still, in your territory. But Dak gets picked off by Stephon Gilmore, trying to fit it into Gallup on a slant, or really kind of like an in route, to be honest. But even still, Gilmore almost had a pick earlier in a couple plays before. And on this one, he just knew it. He just jumped it. He played a really good game, to be honest. I mean, he technically led up the touchdown to Lamb, but obviously that was, kind of a weird situation with him rolling on top of him. But, he played a really good game, jumps the route, kind of gets the pick, returns it for a little bit as well. So Colts start at our 19-yard line. Lucky enough, our defense stepped up. It's a 3-yard rush and then 2 straight incompletions. So they had to kick a field goal, which helped a lot. Just holding them to 3, because that could have been a big change right there. I mean, it's 14-10 us. If they get a touchdown when it looked like we possibly could have been driving down for at least points, and then they get the ball back at half, that could have been very big. But they only get a field goal, so it's 14-13. We do get the ball back, so again, now we're in 2-minute offense. But we do have to punt after a sack on 3rd and 5. I believe that was the only sack we gave up. I could check. Yeah, that was the only sack. So over the last, I know Minnesota and Giants, we didn't get sacked. I'm not sure about, I think Green Bay, we did get sacked in that one. But over the last 2 games, there had been no sacks given up. This one, it was obviously 3rd down, looking to drive with 2 minutes left. A big time in the game, but still, over the last 3 games, only 1 sack given up. That's just a very big credit to the offensive line. But from that punt, Colts with a minute 19, 14-13. They're going to get the ball back at half. odd decision to possibly go for it, and it's not even like they went for it. I think the first play that they should have done was run the ball. Again, minute 19 left, run the ball, see how many yards you get, because it's going to take time off the clock. Even if the Cowboys use a timeout, it forces them to use a timeout. And you can see where you go. Maybe get an 8-yard run, then you start going. Or when you get that first down, then you know that you can actually drive and get a field goal to end the half. But they should have ran the ball, see where they were. If they get a 1-yard run, I think you just take it to halftime, and you're happy being down 1 point, getting the ball back for the second half. But they go incompletion, so don't even force us to use a timeout. And then they go 13 yards to Paris Campbell, get a first down. So now that they should be working. That was bad. I mean, 3rd and 10, how are you giving up 13 yards to Paris Campbell? But they go incompletion again. And they also, on the 3rd and 10, they went out of bounds. So still no timeouts used for us. And then on 2nd and 10, it gets tipped in the air, and then Malik Hooker, the former Colt, he had a big game in this one. I'll talk about him in a little bit. Gets the interception, returns it for 26 yards, and everything flips at that point. So went from them potentially driving for a field goal to now us driving for a potential touchdown. So we're at their 26-yard line, still have all 3 timeouts, like I said. Zeke for 6, Lamb for 6, incomplete to Schultz. Zeke for 1 yard, so we're all the way at the 13-yard line, and then Gallup. Pocket kind of breaks down. Dak rolls out to his right. Gallup's kind of just sitting in a zone, to be honest, and then runs with Dak to the right side, hits him on the run, and kind of just squeezes through a couple people for a touchdown. So huge flip right there, like I was saying. Instead of possible 16-14 Colts going into half, it's 21-13 now going into half. This game with 13 seconds left. So big touchdown right there. Big play by the defense to get the ball back. And we move to the second half. Colts get it. They punt. We punt, both 3 and outs. Nothing crazy happened. But after our 3 and out, Colts, this is their second touchdown of the game. 15-play, 90-yard drive, 8 minutes off the clock. This was a really good drive from them. It's a 2-yard run. It's a 19-yard run. Again, that was Taylor's biggest run. 4 yards from Taylor, 4 yards from Taylor, 14 yards through the air, 1 yard, 10 yards through the air. They get a false start, but then they get a false start, and then they go 19 yards on a pass to Jonathan Taylor. Taylor for -2 yards. So they're all the way basically at a red zone now. Campbell for 11, Taylor for no gain. 3rd and 1, they get no gain again, but the 4th and 1, they go for it. QB sneak, get it. 1st and 10, Taylor for -3. So again, you see the rushing defense playing really well here. And then another touchdown. And then this is the point in the game where Anthony Brown is out. And it's Alec Pierce over Kelvin Joseph. Left sideline, bottom of your screen if you're watching on TV. Just kind of like a jump ball, kind of, to be honest. Pierce is a big guy. I think he's like 6'6", 6'7". So Joseph is tall, but he's not that tall. And just out physicals him and out jumps him, to be honest, and makes the catch. So they go for 2, though. They do not get it. So again, it's 21-19 after the touchdown. They go for 2 to tie the game, to make it 21-21. And just kind of crazy that they were able to do that. And again, this is, with 3 minutes and 43 seconds left in the 3rd quarter. Because again, it was an 8-minute drive. So, but to have the chance to tie this game, basically going into the 4th quarter, and that's what I was talking about. But from this point forward, where the game, we just completely dominate the game. So, we go 10 plays, 75 yards for a touchdown, just under 5 minutes off the clock. Go Ferguson for 4, Pollard for 22 yards, Pollard for 4, Lamb for 6, Zeke for 4. Go deep to Lamb, incomplete, but it's a flag on the Colts. And this one was this is kind of weird because Dak, it looked like an interception. It looked like he hit the ground if you're watching it live, but it could have been an interception. The Colts played out as if it was an interception, and Lamb was the intended target on this, and one of the linebackers goes to block Lamb, and just like, they called it illegal blindside block. You could have said helmet to helmet, unnecessary roughness, whatever it could have been. It was definitely a penalty, but because it was acted out as a live ball, the refs didn't blow it, so it was acted out as a live ball. That penalty still counts, despite the refs, after the play was over, calling it an incomplete pass. So if they called it incomplete pass and that happened, maybe there still could have been a penalty, but I don't think there still would have been. I don't think it would have been enforced. But because it was acted out as if it was live, technically it was a penalty on them, and since it was our ball because it was an incomplete pass, that penalty gets added on. So huge turn right there, because it could have been an interception, which would have been obviously terrible. 21-19, we were driving, they get the ball back now. But instead it turns from it was a 2nd and 6 at their 35. Now it's 1st and 10 at their 20-yard line. So huge turn right there. Then it's 2nd and 10. Zeke goes for no gain, so 3rd and 10. We go Lamb for 17. Again, another play where he just makes the play happen. It's just a little crosser to him, probably for like 3 or 4 yards. Jukes one guy, kind of goes around Pollard on the outside. Again, bottom of your screen if you're watching on TV. Looks like he could have probably cut back to the right to the inside to get a touchdown. That's what it looked like, but he decides to truck the safety. Gets down to, I think, the 3-yard line. Gets the first down, obviously, on 3rd and 10. Next play, go a fade to Gallup. Obviously, that's bread and butter right there with Gallup on a fade. Makes a great play, the 180 catch, and it's a touchdown. So different things could have happened on that drive. Could have been an interception, get the free 15 yards. 3rd and 10, get a big conversion, then end it with that touchdown, make it 28-19. And like I said, this is where the game was over. So the next play, they go tight end screen. It actually works. They actually get us going at the quarterback. It actually probably would have been a nice gain of like maybe a first down, maybe 8 to 10 yards. But Damone Clark, again, he is the starting linebacker now, even with Barr back. It is Damone Clark starting. Strips the ball out of Mo Alley Cox, their tight end. Malik Hooker, again, picks it up for a touchdown, or picks it up and runs it back for a touchdown. So he had an interception, a fumble recovery, and a touchdown against the team that drafted him. So big game from him. And now it's 34-19. They do block the extra point if it matters. But then their next drive. So again, now it went from a 2-point game to now a 15-point game, just like that, literally in the matter of a couple minutes. And then next drive, they did move the ball a little bit. They got it all the way to their 40-yard line. But then Deron Bland, again, he is our slot corner now. Jordan Lewis went down. I think it was the Detroit game that he went down in. So obviously it's been a little while, but Deron Bland, he's played really well. And this was the first of his two interceptions in this game. This was a really nice play. Now, I don't really know what Matt Ryan was doing. It's 3rd and 6. I think he's just trying to force something in. It's, again, bottom of the screen on the sideline. But Bland just makes a really good play and intercepts it. So another turnover for them. Go down 3 plays, 53 yards, get a touchdown. Pollard for 1 yard, Schultz for 22, and then a Tony Pollard 30-yard touchdown run. Tyler Smith blocked and paved that entire way. And now it's 40-19, and there's still 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter, or I guess 10 minutes left. Next drive for the Colts, we get a pass interference call on us. Then they go for 27 yards. So they're all the way to our 30-yard line at this point. Incompletion, and then they get another interception to Deron Bland. This one, I mean, just a great play. The guy's open. Ryan hits him, but Deron Bland just, I wouldn't even say like jumps there. I guess he does jump it, but he kind of just came from the inside, dove for it, made the interception. I didn't even think he caught it. I thought he just batted it down, or that honestly the Colts player still caught it. It somehow went through his hands and the Colts player caught it. But Bland picks it off. And then 3 minutes later, another touchdown. Zeke for 2 yards. Zeke for -1, so 3rd and 9. We do get a pass interference on them. This is when we went deep and they got an interference call. So again, like going deep, even if it doesn't work out with the catch, you can still get an interference call, and that's basically hitting a deep ball down the field. So that's why I don't hate ever throwing it deep, because stuff like that can happen and almost always does happen. Then next play, Zeke goes for 22 yards. Zeke for 1 yard, and then 2nd and goal, he finishes it with a 4-yard touchdown run. So Zeke gets in on the touchdown. Pollard obviously had 2. Gallup has 2, and then Zeke gets 1. Next drive for the Colts, they fumble and we get a touchdown off it. So it's a sack from Osa. Right up the middle, Sam Williams. I think Sam Williams was actually the one who caused the fumble, but I think they still gave it credit to Osa. But Sam Williams recovered it. It looked like it was a touchdown return, but he actually was touched down as soon as he picked the ball up. But nevertheless, we still get the ball. I think at their 30-yard line, I think it was. Get another touchdown. This is with 4 minutes left in the game. Malik Davis is now in. Cooper Rush is in. Obviously, it's a blowout game. and he runs for a 23-yard touchdown to make it 54-19. And the Colts, it was so embarrassing they had to knee the ball to finish the game because they just wanted to get out of there. So final score 54-19, like I said. To go over some stats from the game, we're 7 of 13 on third down. Ever since Dak's been back, we've been the number one scoring offense, second in yards, and first and third down. Those are yards I guess I don't really care about, but the first and third of those stats, the points per game and the third down conversion rate, those are the only stats that matter to me on offense. And obviously running the ball, which we ran for 220 on the ground, those are the only stats that matter, and no turnovers. But the fact that we're first in those categories since he's been back is just phenomenal. It's great. And then you got to do that in the playoffs. You got to convert on third down to put up points. You just got to keep drives going, whether it's even if you don't score points, or at least pinning them back because you can flip field position, or you're getting field goals, and obviously you want touchdowns. But yeah, just big right there. Penalties, obviously we had the one on basically the first play of the game. Only finished with 3 for 43, so great job with the penalties lately. I mean, the Giants game wasn't good, but, the Vikings game, really no penalties. This game, no penalties. So we've been better, but we just got to continue to be better at that. 1 turnover to their 5 turnovers. Again, that's obviously the biggest reason we did win this game. Dak in this game wasn't that good or anything. Wasn't great. Had 3 touchdowns, but only 170 through the air. Didn't do much through the air. 1 interception like we talked about. Pollard 12 for 91. Zeke 17 for 77. Pollard had 2 touchdowns. Zeke had 1. Malik Davis had a touchdown as well. Lamb had the touchdown. Gallup had 2 touchdowns. And the guys with the sacks was Donovan Wilson, Anthony Barr, and Osa Odigizua. So just a really good game. Again, it was the fourth quarter, 33-0 is what they outscored them by. But it's just an inferior opponent at home, Sunday Night Football. It was close, way too close for comfort at one point, but we did finish the job, and that's all that matters. Next week, we move on to the Texans at home. Again, it's even worse. At least the Colts do have players. They do have a pretty solid defense, and they really did show. They were making plays, and they were actually flying around. And even offensively, you still have Jonathan Taylor. Matt Ryan can still make some throws. He can still do some things in the pocket. So it's at least a more competent team. But the Texans, they're 1-10-1. They just lost to the Browns, who didn't even score an offensive touchdown, and they still gave up 27 points or 24 points, which is pretty embarrassing because they gave up 3 touchdowns by the Browns defense / special teams. So, the line's 17. I'm not worried about that, but if the line's 17, you just got to win the game. I don't care how you win, but it should be a pretty comfortable win. The Texans have no defense. They put Davis Mills back at their starting quarterback for this game against the Cowboys, so maybe something changes. But again, the reason he got benched was because they weren't doing anything offensively. They averaged 15 points a game. We averaged giving up 17 points a game, and we averaged, 30 points a game or something like that. So ever since Dak's been back, it's been 34 points per game. I shouldn't really be worried about this game. To win in the 1 o'clock window, obviously, the game's not a nationally televised game, but it's I should not be worried about this game. Just run the ball, do the small things you got to do, work on some stuff, and we'll see what happens, but it shouldn't be a problem. And Tyron Smith is back practicing, so he should be ramping back up to come back. Who knows? Maybe the Philly game. I'm not sure about that. Maybe. Obviously, he's not going to play the Jags game. I wouldn't assume, but I think the Philly game is definitely the earliest he would come back. Maybe the week after that, but we'll see. And just a quick note on Odell. We're not going to sign him. The news was that he's not ready to play this year, which is kind of what it seemed like it was going to be the entire time, was that he really wasn't going to be ready for this year because he always wanted a multi-year contract, which, kind of meant that he really probably wasn't ready for this year, that he didn't even want to work out for them. If you don't want to work out for someone, it means you're not ready, which means that once they do the testing and all the physicals and everything, they know you're not ready. So it didn't make sense. We don't need him. It's not like we need Odell to be better. It's like when we traded for Amari Cooper, we gave that first round pick for him. We needed a wide receiver, and that's what propelled us to make the playoffs that year. We needed that. We don't need Odell. One, he's not a number 1 wide receiver, obviously, at all. But It's not like you see how Lamb's playing, you see Gallup being way healthier, James Washington's coming back, the run game is just dominating. Like, you don't need Odell. It's great to have him, but if he's not even close to 100%, maybe even not even 90%, there's no point in having him. So, probably won't sign him this year, maybe next year, who knows? It's a different story, but I really like where this team is at. I think the one concern is corner, but like I said, you have the Texans and the Jaguars for Kelvin Joseph to get ready. And yeah, hopefully he plays good. I mean, I don't want him to play bad, but I just don't have a lot of faith in him. But we'll see what happens. So thank you for watching this video. Check out the other videos on this channel. The one before this is the recap of Week 13 throughout the entirety of the NFL. The one you'll see after this is the preview video to Week 14. So definitely check that out. And then if you only watch the Cowboys videos, I'll be back next week to talk about the Texans game and break it down. So thank you, and I'll see you next week.